Naples sits atop giant volcanoes, and one of them is threatening to devour the city. Beneath one of Italy's most populous cities, there is a looming danger. Naples is a city that moves at more than one speed. At its highest, you'll see everyday chaos. Cars and motorbikes whizzing through Italian streets like blood cells in a vein. Then there's the slower evolution, the evolution of human history. This is a metropolis still shaped by decisions made hundreds of years ago. A network of narrow alleys that today's city planners would never design. Modern offices and hotels clinging to Roman ruins and centuries-old villas. Less obvious is that Naples also operates at a geological speed, and it's this speed that holds the most power. Most of the time, it's barely perceptible, but occasionally, it turns catastrophic. An eruption of fire and rock that disrupts all other timescales in the city. Naples' volcanoes operate at a different time to ours, evolving over decades, centuries, or even millennia, so it's easy to assume they're static. This is far from the truth. Vesuvius is the most famous of the volcanoes, most famous for destroying Pompeii and Herculaneum in 79 AD. It towers over the city. But there are other underground threats here, and some of them are far more powerful. In fact, one of these giant volcanoes is showing alarming signs that it is about to erupt, and there are hundreds of thousands of people living right above it. One of the last such eruptions in Naples was 80 years ago this week. In mid-March 1944, during World War II, a slowly building mass of magma and gas beneath Vesuvius suddenly began to erupt. A U.S. military doctor, Leander Powers, who was stationed in Italy at the time, described what he saw. As we were finishing dinner, someone called and said there was a huge red lava flow coming down the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. We could see lights in the sky. All night and Sunday there were earthquakes with a terrible rumbling, like thunder. Windows rattled, and whole buildings shook. On May 20, 2024, homes were evacuated and schools closed after a series of 160 earthquakes in the Naples area. One quake was recorded at magnitude 4.4 near the town of Pozzuoli, located in the Campi Flegrei. It was the strongest quake in the area for 40 years. The earthquakes were caused by increased seismic activity caused by gas or magma beneath it, but it is still unknown whether this was a sign of a potential eruption. Today, Vesuvius is much quieter, and the devastating events of 1944 are fading from collective memory as the older generation passes away. Today, the peak is a tourist attraction, with buses taking people to the top, and souvenir stalls selling fridge magnets made from hardened lava. I had come to join a group of artists and scientists who were climbing to the top of Vesuvius on a tour, as part of a festival called Volcanic Attitude. Vesuvius is not your typical mountain. Usually when you reach the top, you look out over the surrounding landscape, but here, the view is directed inward, into a giant crater. When the writer Joseph Addison came here in the 1700s, he called it a terrible dome. But when I peered over the railing, all I saw was shattered rock and a few plumes of sulfurous smoke. It was an incredible experience to meet an entity of that magnitude and power, but fortunately there was no sign of its past fury. Vesuvius, however, remains active, and one day, it will erupt again. On the way up, geologist Giovanni Macedonio of the National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology, INGV, our guide, points out the topography shattered by previous eruptions. When Vesuvius erupts, he explains, it won't be as big as a drop of water. In the past, entire hillsides have been blown apart. Beneath Naples, the African tectonic plate is colliding and descending beneath Europe, creating a more combustible mix of magma and gas than volcanoes in places like Iceland or Hawaii.